Hello, guys. So, we're going to be talking about private placement. So, basically, private placement is a way for companies to raise funds, raise capital. Now, most of us know, or some of us, many of us, I believe, know about public companies and how public companies raise funds from the financial markets, specifically the stock exchange. So basically, companies quote their securities, which we refer to as their shares, although securities don't only refer to shares, but for this conversation, let's focus on shares. So companies quote their securities on the stock exchange, right? And basically offer them to the public. And when they offer them to the public, anybody can buy. Anybody. The company doesn't even know who is buying and who is not buying, right? Well, eventually they get the records, but when they make that offer public, it's thrown open to the whole country and even to foreign investors. So anyone who is interested can come and buy. Wherever you are, whoever you are, there's no screening, there's no vetting, there's no selection, or what have you. But in private placement, right? Private placement is sort of the opposite of that. It is also a way for companies to raise capital, but they don't want to go that route of making it public, right? They want a situation where they can have a predetermined set of investors. Perhaps there are some investors or there's a profile of investors that they are interested in, okay? They can go the private placement route. So the major difference is that when a company lists on the stock exchange, it is offering its securities to the public. When a company chooses to go the private placement route, it is offering its securities to a select group of individuals, whether humans or organizations. Now, the next question is private placement legal under Nigeria's investment and securities laws? The answer to that is yes, it is. In Nigeria, the laws and regulations that govern investment and securities are, number one, we have the Investment and Securities Act, the ISA, and the ISA creates the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. The Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the agency that governs that space, that's a regulator in that space, is empowered by the ISA to create regulations to further administer the securities and investment space. So we have the Securities and Exchange Commission rules, the SEC rules. Now, under the SEC rules, you will find provisions for private placement. That's right. You'll find provision for private placement under the SEC rules. Specifically, section 339, I believe, 340, and a few other sections after that deal with private placement. The definition of private placement in that regulation can be found in section 339, where it defines private placement as the issuance of securities to a select group of investors. I'm more or less paraphrasing, okay? So that is essentially what private placement is. Whatever reason the company has to go the private placement route, that is up to them. A few things I will just, throw out there that can be found in the regulations concerning private placement are that no company can go the private placement route without the prior approval of the SEC. So a company that wants to do private placement must write to the SEC to get its approval before proceeding. And the SEC makes it very clear in its regulations that any company that is applying to do private placement must be able to demonstrate to the SEC that it is in dire need of fresh funds or in need of technical expertise, and private placement is its most viable option of getting these things that it needs. Okay, it's right there in the SEC rules. The SEC rules also state that company securities which will be offered under private placement will not be offered to more than 50 subscribers, which is, of course, unlike when a company is offering its securities on the stock exchange, right? Obviously, more than 50 persons buy your securities on the stock exchange, but it is restricted under the SEC rules when you're talking about private placement. What else can I remember right now off the top of my head about private placement? These few could do for now. Of course, there will be requirements of, submission of resolutions where the company actually had meetings and reached a resolution that it was going to go the private placement route, where it was discussed. Also, was there a notice of meeting in line with the CAC, in line with CAC regulations and CAMA, provisions of CAMA, right? So showing that the meeting was properly constituted according to the law, and that in that meeting that was properly constituted with due notice given for the meeting, the right number of people were there, and they all discussed this thing and then reached a resolution that they wanted to do private placement. So these and a few other things are the requirements that the SEC will ask of a company that wants to do private placement. Of course, if your company is considering private placement, it's a good thing. It is provided for under Nigeria's investment and securities laws and regulations. All you should do is ensure that you reach an attorney who will appropriately and adequately advise you on what should be done, guide you, help you make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Thank you so much for participating by watching this video. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.